Welcome to a journey, a story to be told, where lives and hearts unfold. It's more than just a label, it's our identity. Breaking free, discovering who we're meant to be. Beyond the binary, we shine so bright. With every step we're taking flight. In every voice, a truth to find. Beyond the binary, we're redefining life. So tune in and join the ride. With love and pride, we're side by side. Beyond the binary, together we'll see the beauty in our diversity. Join the ride with love and pride. We're side by side beyond the binary. Together we'll see the beauty in our diversity. Yeah. The beauty in our diversity.
Welcome to Beyond the Binary, the podcast where we'll be exploring unique journeys, challenges, and triumphs of life beyond traditional gender norms. I'm Julie, I'm your host, and each week we'll dive into stories that celebrate authenticity, resilience, and the power of living your truth. Whether you're seeking understanding, inspiration, or just a place to feel seen, you've come to the right space. So let's break boundaries, embrace diversity, and let's go beyond the binary together. So in this episode, we'll be discussing my transitioning story. So I'll be explaining more about how I was feeling when I first discovered something was wrong. I'll be talking about my surgeries. I'll be talking about how I came out. On other episodes in the future, we'll be discussing more facts and other transgender related stuff like relationships. We'll be discussing it financially. We'll discussing it friends wise, media wise, and all that stuff. So let's begin the first episode with a small introduction of myself. So I am Julie. I am 32 years old. I'm currently living in Belgium, and my main occupation is a bartender. When I first discovered that I was transgender, it was a while ago. Well, I wasn't really sure it was called transgender, because at the age of 6, I discovered that something was wrong, I didn't really feel a boy, if that makes sense. So I grew up in a small Belgian town with 4 sisters as a middle child. So it was already very difficult being the middle child and being a boy that doesn't really feel like a boy, But at the age of 6, it was very early on to say, like, hey, something is wrong, And the reason why I felt like something was wrong was because I always preferred doing the exact same as my sister, playing with dolls, dressing up, like all that stuff. But yeah, it was hard to explain that part, So as I got older, I more and more stumbled into the fact that I wasn't feeling okay. I wasn't going great, So the only way I could deal with it was like trying to force it away. So I shaved off my hair a couple of times in the past. I've really gone into like male clothing style, but that didn't work either. Like the urge of unleashing myself was always there. So from the age of 6, I was basically in the wrong place, in the wrong body. But as I turned older in the teenage years, I started exploring more and more. Even though I was trying to hide it, I couldn't resist exploring. So I've been exploring with like makeup, dresses, wigs, and all that stuff, but all at, at a closed door, behind a closed door. So nobody actually knew what was going on, or maybe they do. I don't really know, because, well, we never really talked about the past before. So that was what I was doing behind closed doors. But the older I got, the more harder and harder it became. Like, at one point, I think I was around 11, 12 years old. There was like this news article about a trans man giving birth to a child. And for me, that was like, okay, so there's more people like me. There's more people that are going through what I'm going through. So I cut out the article, I placed it between a booklet that I received from school for being an excellent student. Because at that time I was an excellent student. So I was basically hiding it. But as we started moving to another place, that book became an issue, you know? Because my dad found the book and the article fell out. So at that moment, he was very uncomfortable having this discussion. So he asked what the article was about. And of course, I had to lie. Because I knew how he would react, you know? It's not easy to be like, hey, Dad, I have to tell you something. I kind of feel the same like this trans man. I feel like I'm in the wrong body. Like, it is very hard to say that to your parents, you know? Because that was like also one of my biggest fears to when I came out. Telling my family, telling my parents, you know? So I had to lie, and the article got yeeted away, which is kind of sad, but I can just look it up easily because it's easily locatable on the internet. Long live the internet, you know? So we moved, and more it started to feel annoyed that the fact that I wasn't really living up to myself. So I went to this school that had like a midterm, you could say, like a project midterm. We call it HIP here in Belgium. It's like basically the project you do at the end of like high school to make sure you pass or not pass. So we had this project, and I was working together with like three other people because we it was a group project of four people, like one boy and two girls. So we decided to do like this kind of prom-ish kind of stuff, and I came up with the idea because I knew that one of the girls did not really want to put on a dress. So I was like, yeah, but we need two dresses. So eventually I was like, I can do it, just to make to come out already. But that didn't really work because the plan then got changed, you know. Then we decided to sell candles, which is a very weird jump. But yeah, that was my first attempt to come out, which failed big times. But then I was like, I need something, I need help, I need to come out. So as I went to college, and we all know college do have proms sometimes. I'd say sometimes because it's not a tradition here in Belgium. So I went to college, met this lovely girl called Felice, and after a while we started talking, and talking with her actually made me feel comfortable. Like, you have no clue how at ease I was when I was talking to her. Like, I think she figured out very fast that I wasn't really myself, because there had been some questions that I was trying to avoid, but yeah, because I wasn't really sure if I did the right thing by coming out there at that point. But yeah, so she questioned it, and at a certain moment, there was like this student group that was like, "Hey, let's do a prom." And it was at that moment that I actually was like, okay, this might actually be the moment to do it. So I started setting it up, and I talked to Felice about me wanting to go in a prom dress with makeup and all that stuff, which of course she thought was weird because of the fact that, well, I didn't come out at that point, like she questions. So as I was getting closer to the prom, I bought dresses, I bought heels, I bought makeup, I bought lingerie, and all that stuff just to make it feel real, you know? Because that is eventually what I wanted. I wanted to feel the real me. I wanted to experience the fact that I am me and I am who I am, you know? So, as I was closing by to prom, a lovely other friend, Nina, helped me get ready for prom. She helped me with the dress, she helped me with the makeup, the hair, like everything. And for that first time ever, I really felt like I was myself. If that makes any sense. Like I wasn't out yet as transgender. I was just out walking in public in a dress, wearing makeup, enjoying myself. And I'm so grateful that Nina helped me with this. Like I haven't really told her that, but she made such a big impact on my life at that point. So as we were walking to the prom, everyone was looking at me. Like at the prom itself, people were like, "Wow, great!" Like congratulating me on how I looked and saying I looked great. But I knew that the next day would be a hell, you know? Next day would be a hell because I'm the person who wore a dress to prom. I'm the boy who did it. So after prom, I went home, got ready for the next day, went to school, and instantly everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about why I wore a dress to prom, why I was risking it all just to have fun. And it was at that moment when I had a talk with Felice that I actually admitted that I never felt this happy before as I felt on prom. So it was at that point in life where I believe I had my first triumph and I was like, yeah, I am no boy. I'm a woman. And that's how I feel. So that was the first point where I was actually admitting it. And the moment I did admit it, I lost a lot of people. If I would say 50%, I think I'm still off with a lot. But I lost more than half of the people that I called friends back then. And that's something people don't really understand, like how hard it is, like how devastating it actually is to lose everything. But that was just at school. I only came out at college. Nobody else knew it. It wasn't on my socials. It wasn't known by my family. Nobody knew except the school. So I kinda, after high school, went to work in a store, which I loved the job, you know. I was good at the job because I made promotion very quickly. In like half a year, I made promotion to store manager in a different store. Like, and I was doing great. I had fun. I was having fun with the staff and all that stuff. Even customers knew about the fact that I was about to transition because, well, my hair was growing. I started like doing my nails more, colored my hair like the way a woman would do. So customers knew. But when I eventually told my boss, that boss at the time, that I was coming out as trans, that's when everything changed. So then suddenly, instead of being the good employee I was, everything crumbled down. He couldn't really see me for me anymore. Like, even though I put in so many hours, he basically, in the end, fired me for being transgender, which had such a great impact on my life. Like, great in the sentence of like, I was crushed. And here's where one of my lowest points in life had been. So I just got fired. But before I got fired, I was sent on vacation. All great and stuff. But the thing is, I got fired for being trans, and my life became very hard. And I started seeing the curtain call, you know. I decided where this is the line was. So I was telling my sisters, because one of them already knew that I was having doubts about my sexuality and about my gender, so they knew, and told second sister as well. So at that moment, two sisters knew about me coming out. Very fun. And I planned a trip to Sweden, which was also very fun, you know. But that trip was never. I'll explain later what I was about to say here. So I was planning a trip to Sweden, but my sisters kind of forced me to tell my mom about me coming out as trans, which was very hard. So I wrote a letter explaining everything, and I wanted to leave it on my desk the moment I left. But my sisters were like, "You cannot do this. You have to tell her," and so on and so on. So I actually got the courage and told her like, "I have something to tell you," and I gave her the letter while I was actually there, because I couldn't tell her, you know. And in the end, like, if I would have told her or I would have written it down, it wouldn't have changed anything, because she started crying. She started blaming herself for me being trans, while everyone knows that it has nothing to do with the education of the parents or with the education of the school. It's just something that happens, you know. Like, I'm trans, like, I'm this way because it was a fault of nature. It wasn't a fault by my parents, it wasn't a fault by my school, it wasn't a friend that was like, "Oh, you have to do this," or "This is cool," you know. This is just something that happens. We are not forced to do this. We are not told like, "Oh, if you do this you get this." Like, no, this is basically something completely different. I came out because I couldn't stand it no more. So she cried, she blamed herself, and but after a while she was like, "Okay, um, we can see what we can do." So we went to the hospital, and in Belgium you have a few. I'm going to UZ Gent, or use Universal Hospital Ghent in English, um, where I had my first meeting with my psychiatrists, like the 23rd of September. My mom was accompanying me, my sister was accompanying me, and we were discussing it with the psychiatrist. Because you always have to go for a couple of sessions, and then the psychiatrist will basically tell you what his findings are. So as we were talking there, very easily, The psychiatrist diagnosed me with gender dysphoria. Okay, we had a diagnosis. I had to visit him more often, so we planned the next appointment and the appointment after that. So there it was, my trip to Sweden. I was looking forward to it, and this is where I continued that part. So as I was packing my backpack and my suitcase, I put in like some clothes, wrote another letter, and this is something not a lot of people actually know, right? Because I'm not really a person that talks about my feelings properly. So when I was packing my backpack and my suitcase to Sweden, I also packed a knife. And trust me, this is very hard to admit it, but like the letter I wrote and left on my desk wasn't a happy letter. It was basically a letter where I said goodbye to each and every one of my family. Because, well, as I told you before, it is very draining, very emotional, and devastating if you lose everything at once, you know? And the fact that at that point I didn't really have any real support or any groups I could contact, it made it very hard for me. The only place outside of reality that where I could have been myself was basically Twitch. So before I went to Sweden, I was in this community of this amazing, lovely Swedish streamer called Gabby, and I was talking to Gabby in her chat. She was helping me, like she made me feel like a real person. She was she was one of the sweetest people I have ever met. So as I flew to Sweden, I was talking on Snapchat with Gabby, and we had like this community meetup in Jönköping where DreamHack is. So my plan was to never even attend the community dinner. I planned basically to use the knife to call upon the final curtain, you know? But it was eventually Gabby who stopped me. And I don't know why, or I'm not sure how I can actually explain why I wanted to do it. Like Gabby made me feel like I wasn't a bad person. She made me feel like I deserved to live. Like I deserve to be free. I deserve to be happy. I deserved to finally be who I really am. So that's when I also made like a promise to never really give up, like always try to improve myself, which hasn't always been hard. And I know that Gabby can confirm this because sometimes I have it difficult. And actually telling this is making me very emotional. So I made this deal where I've always have to try to think before I do, and always try to be the better person, which I'm still trying to do until today. So as I was in Sweden Snapchatting with Gabby, she basically prevented me of calling up on the final curtain. I went to the community dinner in a skirt because I was like, she was right. I should not let people bring me down. I should be confident, because in the end, like, I'm am me. I know what I want in life, and I will fight for what I want in life, you know. I want to be me. So I made this deal. We are now, what, 8, almost 9 years later that I met Gabby, and I'm still doing my part. Meanwhile, I already had like a couple of surgeries. I had a boob job a few years ago. So that surgery went okay. Like, it did hurt breathing after I got the boob job done, which is normal because they stuff things in and your chest area doesn't really get bigger. Well, it does get bigger, but like the space before doesn't get bigger, so it presses down. So you'll have to, or I had to, learn how to deal with it, and that went fine. Like, I am now already happy with like the mid part of my body. I then basically went to Sweden again, met up with Gabby, had some fun. Like, I'm always enjoying when I can meet up with people I've met through Gabby's community, and there's a lot of people I've actually met through her community. But as the years got on, like, I decided I wanted more and more, which kind of makes sense, you know, because I wanted to feel more and more feminine, and so I went on to book like another surgery. And that surgery was like testicle removal. I can tell you one thing. It feels so weird when you did the surgery. Afterwards, it feels so weird. It feels weird in so many ways. Because if you do the surgery, then normally you'll never have erections anymore. You stop the production of male hormones. And it will increase like your femininity. Well, I can tell you one thing. That surgery, I don't regret taking it, but I feel like something went wrong. And I'm not saying it because of the trauma effect or anything. I'm saying it like, I did lose my testicles, like, all fine and stuff, but I still have side effects. Like, I cannot really explain what and how, but like, you know when you should not have an erection when you get your testicles removed? Well, I can tell you, I sometimes still get one. And in the beginning, they were like, the doctor was like, yeah, but that could be because there's still like something left behind, like, but eventually that will stop. Well, we're now, what, 4 months later? Still there. All fine. So then, a few months later, I think it's like 1 or 2 months later, I had voice surgery. Yeah, that surgery, like, again, this is very hard for me to talk about it, but like, this surgery was a pain. It was a pain in the way that I did surgery. I was not allowed to speak for like 5 to 7 days, which for me is already very hard, you know. I love talking to people. I love talking to the friends I did find eventually. So I do love interacting with people. Yeah, but I was not allowed. After I was allowed, I basically was able to speak, but I was very hoarse, which was logical because they did vocal surgery, and you automatically are hoarse after vocal surgery. At the last checkup I had, I was told I will need to have a second surgery because, well, my vocal cords, they start to paralyze. Yup, that's where we're heading. We're basically losing our voice. We're using so much power now to actually be able to speak. Because I can tell you, it's not always easy to make a sound now. I am putting in all my energy. I'm putting in a lot of emotion in trying to speak. Do I regret taking that surgery? No. Because in the end, I always knew that there was a risk where I was able to lose my voice, you know. I knew there was a chance, so I went for the one thing that most people wouldn't choose for. I decided to go for my happiness and not what other people decide, because everyone I talked to, everyone I discussed this with was like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this. You should not do this. You can lose your voice." And like, sure, I can lose my voice. And I'm losing my voice. That's already two different things. But like, I don't regret it at all. Because it is part of me. I want to be happy, I want to be free. And I think the most important reason why I did this was because of self acceptance. I wanted to be able to look into the mirror and be like, "You go, girl. You finally did it." And I feel like I'm almost there. Like, I can put on makeup and a dress, and I can look in the mirror and be like, "Okay, now I see a girl." But then when I open my mouth, people are like, "Hey, sir." Like, my voice is the only thing that stops me from really being fully feminine. So, sure, I could be like, "I'm not doing the second surgery and all that stuff, but I am going to do it. I am going to complete everything because, you know, I want this in life. I want to be happy. I want to be free." And it makes for me no sense that I would quit now. Like, sure, I took a loss. I took two losses, actually, two. Because, like, testicle surgery and the voice surgery went not so great. 2 out of 3 surgeries went wrong. Absolutely wrong. And you could think, like, the odds aren't really in your favor. And luckily, I was. But there's always a saying, you know. There's a saying that basically it's Dutch, but I'm trying to translate it now, but it doesn't really state anything. So the saying is like, eventually everything will turn out well. So even though I had like 2 losses, it doesn't mean that the next one will be a loss. The next one could be a victory, you know? And then I'll finally be free, I'll finally be myself. So, do I regret anything I did before? No. Because, look where I'm standing right now, right? Legally, Julie. It was a that was for me already one of the biggest achievements I've done. Like my legal name, because was able to pick my own name. And trust me, picking your own name is harder than most people actually think. Because I went for like, okay, so I'm able to pick my own name. Now what? I was like, do I pick something Swedish? Because I do have a connection with Sweden. Do I pick something American? Or what? So I was I had like a list of names that I really liked. Because like I had Felicity in there. I had Angelica in there. Julie was in there. And then I was like, okay. Yeah, there was also a Swedish name in there, but like, even if I pronounce it, people will not even understand it anyway. So I was like, okay, I got these four names. What do I pick? And I was like, I am currently stationed in Belgium. So at that moment, I was like, I cannot really pick a Swedish name because everyone will butcher it. Great, that leaves that one. And by process of elimination, I ended up with either Julie or Felicity. But then I was like, if I pick Felicity, a lot of people will look weird at me. Because it is kind of a weird name to have. Like, I'm not saying it's completely wrong to have that name, but like, I only know one Felicity, and that's Felicity Smoke from Arrow. But yeah, that's the only Felicity I knew, but I liked the name. So I went with Julie. That was very good, because I had to go to my birth town, fill in some documents and all that stuff. A few months later, also my gender on my ID got legally changed to woman. So that was like another win for my book. And I was, at that moment, I was feeling so energetic, so happy, because I am going forward. I am reaching something. So, yeah, I was like, this is a decent victory. We're getting there. We're doing something. So yeah, it hasn't always been bad, It hasn't always it hasn't always gone the way I wanted it, but it hasn't always been bad. Because if I basically reflect on everything, like, would I have changed anything in my life that has happened? I would answer no. Because if I did something different, like, say for example, I would have come out earlier and my parents would have been accepted, and I wouldn't have met Twitch. And if I didn't have Twitch, I wouldn't have met the people I have now in my life. Like, for example, Gabby, Centane, Josephine, Skapberg, Marta, like a lot of people that are now in my life who actually mean something to me wouldn't have been there. Has Twitch always been good for me? I will have to answer no. Because I am a streamer on Twitch myself. And I'm not going to put in my details of Twitch anywhere regarding this podcast. If you find it, you find it. It's kind of like that. But when I was doing like this stream, I ended up with the toxic side of Twitch. And I can tell you, that side wasn't really fun. As you can see in the comments here, Like, there's a lot of people, well, most of the times, like one or two people, three people, commenting, like, fucking burn in hell. Like, ew, you don't deserve to live. Do you have a mood yet? Like, trust me, I have no clue at that moment when mood went. Like, how much does a fake mood cost? That's basically how it went for like the entire stream. Even 18 minutes after stream, they were still talking about it. They were still being negative. They were still hating on me. Like, it even reached a point where I kept receiving Twitch whispers with death threats. I was not so happy with those, I can tell you. But eventually, you know you cannot do anything about it. Eventually, you learn that no matter what happens, people will always, I say always as in a bad way, but they will always challenge the unknown. So me coming out on a platform like Twitch as, hey, I'm here, I'm trans, you know. That kind of triggered a lot of people at that time. Because I noticed as well as time continued, like after 2 years of receiving death threats almost daily, it reduced to once a week. Either people got bored or they started doing research. Who knows, you know? So that was like not a fun part of Twitch. So now basically I don't have whispers on because I do not want more and more of those whispers, you know? If people really want to message me, well, email me, call me, whatever. So I don't really care. But I can tell you one thing, like this entire journey, my transitioning, has been one hell of a ride, you know, with a lot of ups and downs. Like, as I told you, my lowest point was basically when I tried to end it all. And I've been there recently as well. But then I think back at my talk with Gabby and my talk that I was I was being brought to this world with a purpose, you know. My purpose is not to basically end it without a bang, you know. That's something I've really learned as well. I learned how to stop caring. And it doesn't mean I'm heartless, you know. I just stopped caring what other people think. If I want to put on a dress and go out, I'm just doing it. And that's the only advice that I have for other people around me that are in the same situation. Like, if you feel like you're trans and you or you want to explore something, your gender, your sexism, sexuality, whatever, just try it. You'll discover it eventually whether it suits you or not. But at least try to be yourself. Try to be you. Authenticity is the most important part of your life. Like, I'm struggling with my words right now because I never did that in the past. I was never the person that was authentic, and I do regret that part. I regret that I've let people walk over me every day. I got bullied. I got IRL threatened to death with a knife. I got knocked off my bike on the busiest road in my town. And when I say busiest, I mean there is basically non-stop cars driving. Like, at that hour when it happens, there's like a traffic jam. Well, not really a traffic jam, but like the cars keep going like zoom. Like, I could have been killed multiple times. But I'm still here, I'm a fighter, and that's what I will always do. All thanks to the lovely support I have right now, you know. So yeah, that was basically my story. And there's not more I can say at the moment because, well, we are what we are, you know. But I hope you got to know me a bit better now from what I've told you. And I hope you realize that we all have our different stories. We all have a different point of view in life, and we all have a way of communicating. And my way is definitely not always the correct way to do it, because I am the most stubborn person you can meet. I'm also one of the people that if I get emotional, I block. And I don't mean like social media, block, block, block. No. I mean, I get a block in my head and I basically start discussing everything. I'll start fighting off people and I'll start arguing. It's not always the smartest thing to do. I am working on it. But yeah, it is part of my personality. But we are here to grow, you know? And hence why I'm doing this podcast. Because I want to let people into my world. I want people to get to know me for me. And also to let people know that being trans is okay. Like, you have no clue how much it hurts for people to not be heard, to not be seen, to be ignored for being trans, you know. And that's why in like the other episodes we'll also talk more about the emotional and the psychology behind it all. So yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and I hope you're having a lovely day, evening, night, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.